First, I need to apologize to everyone. I don't have a clue as to why I am here. This is my partner, Kathy, and I'm going to answer the question that everybody always wants to know. Yes. You see, she is the wife, and I am the husband. Yes. I am the controller of the remote. And when Kathy cleans, I watch TV. When Kathy cooks, I eat. When Kathy saves, I spend. And when she tells me where I'm supposed to be and when I'm supposed to be there, I do it. And here I am. What have you got me into this time?
Okay. Now you remember, we're supposed to let people know about how we met, you know, when Harriet met Sally. So you remember, you'd been with your partner for 18 years. You'd raised kids and you had grandkids, and you then had 4 children and 5 grandchildren that were living with you that had just lost their mother because she died after 18 years. Linda was so dear to you. Their mother and grandmother was no longer there. And I remember how sad you looked. I know you remember how we got together. We met at McKinley Presbyterian Church.
Yes, I was in a bad way. Linda and I were so far back in that closet that even I didn't know that I was a lesbian. All I knew is that I'd fallen in love with this woman, and I loved her with all my heart. And I believed with everything that I had that if I would take good care of her while she was sick, that everything would be okay. But she died. And so I contacted the church because I knew that they had an LGBT group that was working on some issues. And they sent me to the Over 30 Lesbian Support Group.
And I remember that because I went to the next meeting at the church, and the woman in charge gave me your email address. And the very next day, I emailed you.
Like I read email. Yes, and the next time I went to church, you came and invited me to sit with you.
And I remember exactly where you were sitting, in the back, and you were so sad. And that's the day I suggested we go to Panera's for a cup of soup.
Yes, that's when it was on John Street. And we went, we had some soup, and I told you my story.
And then after we finished talking...
See, I knew if I didn't know what to say, she'd tell me. Let's see. Oh, yeah. And so afterwards, I'm standing outside, and she's driving away. And I panicked, and I'm thinking, my God, where are you going? I don't know what to do. Even though I had all these kids living with me, I'd never felt so alone in all my life.
So I invited you to come to the support group, and this was a group that we put together of lesbians over 30 who didn't want to do the bar scene.
I could go now. I was happy that I'd found someone who understood me. Even though I'd had a relationship, I still hadn't admitted to myself that I was a lesbian.
And my story was a little bit different. I'd come out about 10 years ago. And I grew up a really good Catholic girl, and in my vocabulary, the word lesbian didn't even exist. Except that when I was in high school, the nuns warned us about special relationships. So when I finally figured out exactly who I was, I came out to my friends and family, and my family said, "What took you so long?"
Everyone in the group was so nice, and even though I didn't talk much about it, it felt good to be able to share.
Well, you seemed to fit in pretty well, and you started joining in other activities.
Yes, you invited me to your house to bake cookies. Little did you know, I don't bake. It was tough to admit that I was a lesbian, let alone a husband.
Well, you could have fooled me because you jumped right into the activities.
I didn't want anybody to know that I couldn't bake a cookie.
Well, I remember that day, had a cookbook laying out on the counter, and I was looking at it, and you came over and you put your hand on my arm, and then you kind of leaned over my shoulder, and I just got cold chills all over.
It just seemed like the natural thing to do.
And then I invited you over for dinner and a movie the next week. And do you remember the movie? I think it was In and Out.
We never saw the movie.
Lynn!
And then I got really sick, and I felt confused, and I just needed to get home. On the way back, I was torn between wanting to be with you and feeling guilty.
Why guilty?
Because I was still mourning the death of my partner, and everything was moving so fast.
Well, I was confused too because I didn't know what to do. I didn't know how to make you feel better. Were you happy to come back?
I am happy to say I did come back.
And now, 14 years later.
8 children and 17 grandchildren between us.
And we're still meeting with our group, which is now lesbians over 50.
Yep, it's been a great lifestyle.
Welcome back to That's What She Said.
Welcome back.
Welcome back, welcome back.
Before we continue, I wanted to take a moment to, hi Karen, I can see her right there, to thank our sponsors for all that they have done to make this evening possible. And I also wanted to thank you. Thank you so much, really. I also wanted to thank our producing sponsors, and I prepared a little list. List. I know where I put it. Excuse me. Right here in apartment 3040. Thank you, Christie Clinic, Christie Foundation, Bank Champaign, Checkered Moon, Harriet, Stevie J Broadcasting, and 5 Foot Productions. And thank you, Allie at Findings, for giving us these awesome outfits. And thank you, more than anything, for not letting Kerry Rossow wear those mom jeans.
Hey, you know what? I brought a special list too. Oh. I'm gonna go get it, hold on. You know what? Things just aren't where they used to be. Just a sec. There it is. That's right. Got nothing on me, Harlan. Thank you, Dr. Frericks, Karyl, Illini Radio Group, Junior League of Champaign-Urbana, the Up Center, and Apatsu Salon. And a very special thank you to Sharon Allen from Sterling Wealth Management for hosting our after party at V Picasso.
Oh, yeah.
All right, next up, someone's going to win a $5,000 Invisalign package from Dr. Frericks.
Ooh, wow. And in honor of Kerry Rossow's 36 longs, you in seat 36L, you're our winner. Annie's going to come find you right now.
Annie found 36L. There you go. Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Thank you, Dr. Frericks.
Now, Rossow and I started the show because we believe that every woman has a story to share. In fact, we believe this so strongly that we think any one of you could come up here on stage and do just that. Yeah.
Now, don't let Dingbat scare you. Sorry, don't let Harlan scare you. We're just going to ask you a few simple questions. And here's how we're going to do it. You are all going to put your pointer finger in the air. And when I count to 3, you're going to point to someone that you would most like to see on this stage.
Get those fingers up.
So put those fingers up. Mayor Finan, that's the wrong finger. Pointer finger. Here we go. 1, 2, point. Here comes Annie. Who's it gonna be?
Who's it gonna be?
Uh-huh, uh-huh. Uh-huh. Don't be shy. Here we go. She's not making eye contact. She's not making eye contact. All right.
Oh.
All right.
All right, ladies, bring it on, bring it on.
Bring it on.
We're not gonna
Come on,
bite.
Poppen.
Come on.
Get up here, you.
Give her some support.
Come
here.
on.
Yeah,
Help her
girl.
out. Come on.
That a girl. Oh yeah. Oh, this is gonna be.
You know what? I won't make you sit by Jill.
Oh, this is gonna be fun.
Come on out. Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
Another fancy chair from Checkered Moon.
Oh.
Thank you for that. I think she just ran out the side door. Oh, no.
Oh.
Annie's dragging her back.
Yep. Nice try.
Oh, come on
Give her a round
in.
of applause. Yay.
Thank you. Come on over and have a seat.
Oh, yay.
Have a seat.
Hi.
Welcome.
Thank you, Annie. Thanks for volunteering.
Volunteering.
Thanks, Jess.
Okay, so we're going to start out with a simple few questions like the purpose of life, and actually we just want to know your name, where you're from, anything you want to share.
My name's Bridget Mullen, and I'm actually from Champaign. I moved away for a long time, but I came back for grad school, and I'm...
Give it up for Bridget!
All right, let's get right to it, Bridget.
Yes.
Okay, fire away.
Tell us about your first crush.
Yeah.
Oh, my first crush. Gosh, let me even think. I guess it was sort of on, like, a girl when I was a little girl, you know? You, like, fall in love with your girlfriend, and you want to be at her house all the time, and just get to know what kind of food she likes to eat, and just spend all of your time with her and share your secrets with her.
Kind of seems like how you feel about me. That's oddly familiar.
Yeah, and so I guess that was it, you know, and we rode her bikes back and forth all the time. She had guppies.
What's a guppy?
And neon tetras, and this really
yeah.
cool aquarium that I was fascinated with. And at one point, I went away on vacation, and I had gotten a fish, but I just had a fish bowl, you know? And so I left my fish with her. It was a black molly that was named Abracadabra after that song, Abracadabra. Yeah, and so...
I want to be
Remember that song? Yeah.
Yep.
We like listening to music together. So anyway, I guess that the fish died like 3 times when I was gone, and the mom kept replacing it and hoping that when I came back, I would notice that it was a different fish.
Whoops.
And I didn't, but then Claire told me what her mom had done to like replace my fish, and I didn't care. It was fine.
Fish murderer.
So that was probably my first crush, would be Claire.
See, she's a good one.
See.
Whoever picked her, good job. Okay, so second question. Who in this room would you pick to be the next president of the United States?
Rebecca from Apatsu.
Yes, indeed.
Yes.
She'd be amazing.
Oh,
Indeed.
what is your favorite thing about Rebecca?
I like seeing the way that she totally is gutsily herself, whether I see her sweaty at the Y or the funky style that she has or just her overall personality.
Yes, Rebecca. How is it that she always looks cool?
How is
Rebecca,
that?
actually,
She does. Rebecca always looks like a badass, and then I'm always
so
standing next to
cool.
her, and she's like this little teeny tiny Polly Pocket, and then I'm always like, I am cool too, Rebecca. Sorry.
Actually, you said you wanted to look like her once.
I did.
You did. You're like, do I look like Rebecca when I
Yeah.
wear this? And I was like,
Lie to me.
sure.
Yeah, anyway. Well, so I've always wanted to be able to travel back in time and give my younger self advice, sit up straighter, skip the blue mascara, stuff like that. My bad. If you could travel back in time to give your younger self advice, what would it be?
I guess try not to take myself so seriously. I figured that out as I've grown, but sometimes, man, I was like really intense about my goals and what the right thing for me to do and these decisions matter so much, But yeah, just to be able to realize and have faith that things are going to work out, and no matter what decisions you make, it's going to work out the way it's supposed to. But this is a really hard thing to tell a young person. That's sort of something that you just have to figure out.
Amen on that.
Amen.
Okay, final question, unless you want more.
That's okay.
What would you say if I told you, stop it.
I'm bouncing again. I'm so excited. Sorry.
Stop bouncing.
Sorry.
What would you do if I told you that right now, as our thank you for coming up here, you got to win this pink little sofa? Because you do. You want to try it out?
Thank you, Checkered Moon.
Okay.
You really do win the sofa.
Yeah. Thank you for coming up here.
Thank you so much.
Give it up for Bridget, everybody.
Yay, Bridget. Next up, Isak in the house.
It's all right, take your time.
I was a beautiful, arms wide open, happy child. When I was 17 months old, my mother still had to prop me up on the couch with pillows so that I wouldn't roll off and I couldn't fall down. I would sit there all day, every day, singing to myself, chattering with anyone who would come by, happy as could be. Later, my mom could stand me up on a stool with a bottle of Windex and a full roll of paper towels, and I would clean a single window, singing and chattering to myself for hours, perfectly content. And then, in the middle of one night, I woke up screaming from a horrible, horrible nightmare. Shaking, terrified, crying. And you moms know that a child who is stubborn can scream and cry for a long, long, long time. But no one came to comfort me. I was 3 years old. So in my little flannel-footed pajamas, now holding a very soggy teddy bear, I padded to my mom's bedroom, but the door was closed. In fact, it was locked, and I didn't even know my mom's room had a lock. So for a moment, I thought something was really, really wrong. So crying, I pounded on the door and I called out to my mom, but she didn't answer. I didn't know what else to do. So I kicked and I called out, but my mom didn't answer. Eventually, I realized that there were voices on the other side of the door. At first, there were whispers. Then there were shouting whispers. And then there were sobs. And then there was more. My father was there. In my memory, at the time, my father was a shadowy figure who would appear from time to time. And in some ways, he was my hero. He'd let me sit on his foot as he walked around the apartment. Or he'd take me with him when he'd go out and he'd sit me up on a bar, in a bar, eating pigskins with hot sauce and sipping beer. But he was also a man that frightened me. So, in the moment outside that door, I calmed myself down and I listened. I could hear my mom begging and pleading to get to me. I heard her crying and sobbing. I heard her clawing and fighting to get to me. And I heard my father fighting back. He was hurting my mom because I was outside that door crying. He was hurting her because I was scared. He was hurting my mom because I needed her. And since that night, I have never been the same. That night I learned that if someone cared about me, they would suffer and they would feel pain. I learned that no matter how hurt and scared I was, no one would be there for me, not even my mom. I learned that no matter how hurt and how scared I got, I should feel terribly, terribly alone, because if I ask you to be there for me, I am asking you to be hurt and scared, and when you got injured, it would be all my fault. All my life, I waited for a fairy tale mother who would appear, wave her magic wand, and make my life easy. I wanted a mom who could kiss my bruises and make all the pain go away. But that fairy tale mom never came. Instead, for years, I cried, I spit, I kicked, I fought, I pounded, and I screamed, waiting for my life to get better. And it didn't. But eventually, thanks to some really good counseling, I came to accept how much I hated feeling so angry and so hurt and so abandoned all the time. More importantly, I came to understand that I could never, ever change my past, but I could change me. I will always be, at my core, a frightened little girl in flannel-footed pajamas, holding on tight to a soggy teddy bear. To deny this would be a lie. But that reality is incomplete. I think reality can be revised. I think it can be improvised. So now every day that I'm alive, I choose laughter. I choose joy, and I choose love. I choose to listen and to care and to trust, and I choose to be someone that I genuinely like. These are not hats that I put on or faces that I wear. And in truth, sometimes I choose better than others because I am a work in progress. But I am reclaiming that eyes wide open, happy, happy child. At times, I still love to sing, and at times, I still love to chatter. But still, sometimes, to this day, I feel terribly, terribly alone. It doesn't mean that I am, and it doesn't mean that I have to be. In truth, I am surrounded by women who are, in part, like me, little girls holding on to soggy teddy bears. Intelligent, kind, courageous women beautiful, strong, and compassionate women. Trust me, flannel-footed pajamas or no, you are not, and you too never have to be alone. Choose. Please choose, because your reality is up to you.
So let me tell you all about a time that I brushed shoulders with Roger Ebert at a bus stop in Urbana. I swear he was staring right at me.
It's my story. Mine. No. Excuse me, Jessica. I cannot believe you're doing this again. This is my story. I brushed shoulders with Roger Ebert at a bus stop. Not you, not you. And this is not the first time I've caught you telling my story. I'm going to be nice about it this time, because I love you. Go ahead and go take a seat over there and let me tell my story. I promise you, when you're a twin, that happens. You find your sister telling your story, and she truly believes it's her story to tell. Promise. So Jessica and I have been together from womb to age 21. Literally, every single moment almost was spent together. So she's been there through the highs and the lows. Well, the college years had a lot of highs and quite a few lows too, as any college grad can relate to. One low stands out in my mind in particular. My college crush, Tom, you know, the guy that you drool over for 2 solid years, was finally paying attention to me. I'm over at his apartment one night. We're hanging out on the couch watching a Pink Floyd concert on VHS. It was hot. It was hot. Yeah, it was. And all of a sudden, crazy, raging, cramping feeling starts happening. I am going to have explosive diarrhea in Tom's bathroom. Yeah. Well, I'm pretty sure he didn't notice the first time, but I was back in the bathroom not even 10 minutes later, and I knew he knew something was up. So I called my college roommate to come pick me up, and I decided to wait outside by the curb. Well, this is how things work for Julie Henry. That crazy, raging, cramping feeling I was having came back. Yeah, I know, terrible. And I am not about to go and knock on Tom's door, and I am certainly not going to shit my pants. Not gonna do it. Not gonna do it. So, my only other option is to drop my pants and squat behind a tree. I know, this is the worst. On the corner of First and Armory. Yeah. Yeah. I know. Terrible, terrible. I was horrified, as you can imagine. I can tell by your freak out moment there, too. I was horrified. So I get my sister the next day. I drag Jessica back, and we recreate the scene. We're circling around the block in our 96 Oldsmobile Achieva, looking from every possible angle. And she keeps reassuring me that there is no way that Tom saw my explosion. It kind of went something like this. I was in a panic. I'm like, oh my gosh, Jessica, please tell me. Like, here's me. I'm squatting right here. Here's my ass. And there's his bedroom window. Are you sure? There's no way he saw me. Terrible. And each time, Jessica would reassure me that there was no way and no reason for me to hang my head the next time I saw Tom in the lecture hall. Hey, what are twins for if they can't take you back to your shitting scenes and tell you everything's going to be okay? Thanks, Jess. Well, I'm just going to say I'm so thankful that Tom never called me back, because I never would have met the love of my life, Marshall. He's one of the one guys at the show tonight, so mwah, love you, babe. Well, as the years have passed, as I've become an adult, I've realized that Jessica and I really do have a special bond, shit and all. A few years ago, I accidentally became pregnant with my third son in 3 years. When unbeknownst to me, my IUD went missing. Yeah. Well, Jessica and my older sister Janelle and my mom did the best they could to be supportive of Marshall and I during this unexpected time. And I'm going to be generous here. It took Jessica maybe a big whopping 24 hours before she started in with the jokes, as only a twin can. I would call her and she'd pick up the phone and she'd say, "Are you kidding me? Whose IUD just falls out without them knowing? What is wrong with your vagina?" Yeah. Yeah. Rude. Stop. When life is less than perfect, and it is for everyone, I know I can always count on Jessica. I've been there for her when she's battled anxiety, and she's been there for me when, well, random items fall out of my apparently cavernous vagina. Jessica and I have spent the last 35 years thinking we were fraternal twins because that's what the doctor told our mom when we were born. We never really believed it. So it was just last month we got together with our sister and our parents, and we opened the results to a DNA test. Now we finally know the truth. 1 sperm, 1 egg.
One month ago tonight, I was sitting around a campfire in Haiti, making s'mores with the kids at God's Littlest Angels Orphanage and the 10 passionate women who had made the Soul Journey to Haiti with me. As coordinator of Soul Journey, one of my goals is to design trips that would empower, encourage, and inspire not only the women on our teams, but the GLA staff and the Haitian women we meet along the way. It takes passion and a sense of purpose to put these trips together. But before I could start, I had to go on a soul journey of my own. Mine began on August 27th, 2007. I remember that day like it was yesterday. We had just left home for a job interview in Atlanta. It was 10 a.m., way too early for my husband to be slurring his words as he talked on the phone. I didn't need any more proof that he'd already been drinking that morning. And with an uncanny, really strange sense of calm, I closed my eyes, I said a prayer, and I told him to take me home. I was finally ready to make the decision that life on my own would be better than life in the chaos that had taken over our 36-year marriage. In the quiet of the car that morning, the decision seemed really easy to make. But the months and years that led up to that decision had not been quite so simple. In trying to make sense of life in a home controlled by alcohol, I had become bitter, angry, and resentful. I'd perfected the art of walking on eggshells, and my self-esteem and my dreams had gone down the tubes. Memories of all our good years faded as I became consumed with the pain of the last few. I was sucking the life out of my closest friendships as I bored my friends daily with detail after detail of my life as a victim. Though my friends were really sympathetic, I'm sure they were really thankful for caller ID. During those years, I learned that there are many ways to numb pain. Oh, I would have never used alcohol. You see, my grandfather was an alcoholic, and I'd heard a lot of stories about his late-night binges and the effect they had on my mother, my uncle, and my grandmother. But I discovered my own ways to numb the pain, eating a lot, working a lot, traveling a lot, and even getting overly involved in church work. I craved attention, and I tried to control whatever and whoever I could. But what I realize now is that while I was numbing the pain, I was also numbing the joy. On that August morning in 2007, when I knew that life was over, as I knew it was over, what I didn't realize was that it had just begun. God had not only given me the courage to say, I'm done, but the compassion to see the pain that Gary was in, and the willingness to help him find a residential treatment program when he said he was ready to get help. I finally realized that the choice to stay or leave was mine, and I chose to stay. And then I began a slow journey back to joy. I began to focus on myself, and instead of telling friends I was just fine, I learned to be specific about what I needed, and the answer was almost always the same. Well, one of two, chocolate or Chipotle. After I just told you I had a problem with overeating. Okay. So on days when I was too exhausted to get dressed, my friends would show up at my door and refuse to leave until I got dressed and joined them for a walk. Friends and family prayed for me, drove me to Al-Anon meetings so I didn't have to go alone, and even took me to the riverboat to mindlessly feed the slots. Our kids were grown and living out of town. One called daily just to check in and make sure I was okay. The other was supportive, but more distant, and sent daily letters of encouragement to Dad. I wish I could tell you that I wrote letters too, but I didn't. Gary received a lot of letters from family and friends while he was in rehab, but not one of them was from me. Looking back, I'm not very proud of that, but I trust it was part of my journey, learning how to detach. After 28 days in rehab, my husband's counselor joyfully called and said, "Your husband's ready to come home." Home? Are you kidding me? I'm not ready for him to come home yet. Not much had changed, except geography. He was in Minnesota and I was in Champaign. I was seeing a counselor, but really spent almost all of my time talking about him and his drinking. Those first few months after rehab were really, really hard as we navigated a new world for both of us, learning to set new boundaries and stay in our own lanes. Our counselors told us to mind our own business. He should work on his recovery and I should work on mine, but that we needed to find a way to share space together without talking about our issues. So what did we do? Together, we watched 3 full seasons of 24. I'll forever be grateful to Jack Bauer for providing us with drama that did not include us. I'd be lying if I said it was fast or easy. It took many months until I felt things really begin to change. It had nothing to do with Gary and everything to do with me. On the journey back to joy, I had to learn to forgive and put resentments behind me. I had to learn about the disease of alcoholism and the effect it had on each one of us in our family. I had to learn how to give up my victim role and how to accept responsibility for the ways I had contributed to the chaos in our home. Now, 8 years later, I can say that I'm proud of the work we've put into this. On August 27th of this year, just 2 months after our 44th wedding anniversary, Gary celebrated 8 years of sobriety. He now leads a ministry for others struggling with hurts, habits, and hang-ups. I lead the women's recovery group and have just returned from my 3rd soul journey to Haiti. Now that's a miracle. As I packed for this Haiti trip, I was amazed to see how much I could fit into my backpack. 8 years ago, I was lugging around so much dead weight that there was no room for joy or the cameras I use to see the world. Back then, my backpack was loaded down with resentments, anger, hurts from my childhood, need for approval, low self-esteem, and pride. Some of those burdens I'd put there myself, and some were added by family members and others. It's incredible to see how much lighter my load became when I got rid of all that dead weight. These days I pack light, free of the hurts of the past, with a keen sense of purpose and joy. I love to see how God has used every detail of my life, the pain of those years of chaos, my years as a photographer, my friendships in this community, everything in creating a new purpose for my life. I am confident that had it not been for the pain, I would not have experienced the joy. When I left for Haiti last month, a friend surprised me with this bracelet. The tag reads, "For every woman who has struggled, questioned, realized, believed, accomplished, and triumphed, trust your journey." I am that woman. I have finally learned to trust my journey. My soul and my home are filled with joy again.
There are few certainties in life. One of them is that everyone has a mother. I believe everyone should have a Mexican mother. Mexican mothers are generous. My mom lives 5 hours away and visits us monthly, sometimes unexpectedly. Now, you would expect a grandmother to show up with surprises for her grandchildren, which she does, but she takes it one step further. Every visit, she shows up with a large cooler full of food that she has my dad lug in, with a main dish, sometimes roast, sometimes tamales, and about half a dozen butter and cottage cheese containers, none of which contain butter nor cottage cheese, full of rice, beans, what have you. And that's just how she rolls. Not because she's necessarily planning on feeding anyone, but because she might need to feed someone. God forbid anyone leave this woman's presence hungry. True story. 2 months ago, we met up halfway between both our homes for a family funeral, and she told me she had new pillows for me in her trunk because she deemed my guest pillows unacceptable on her last visit. And I said, "Thank you." And she opens up her trunk. I said, "What's in the box?" There's a big box in there. She said, "Oh, just some pies I made." I said, "Let me see." There were 12 pies in this box. I said, "Mom, why did you make those?" She said, "Well, I wasn't sure they were going to have dessert for everyone at the luncheon after the funeral mass tomorrow." What? This was not our church. Mexican mothers are loyal. Now, loyalty means different things to different people. To my mother, it means a lifetime of devotion to those closest to her, even if they happen to be her ex-son-in-law. When my sister divorced her husband of 14 years, my mom had many concerns, of course, having been like a mother to him, but her predominant concern is that he was going to starve. That's a reasonable concern for a grown, self-sufficient man, right? So to show her concern, she would show up with food at his house, random times, maybe lunch, maybe dinner, using the key she had that he was afraid to ask for back. It wasn't until one of my nieces informed her that he was starting to date, and it might not be welcome if she showed up unannounced, that this occurred to be at all inappropriate. From that point on, she still made him food, but she at least announced her visit first. Mexican mothers are protective. We've all heard the saying, "Hell hath no fury." Try hell hath no fury like a Mexican woman who thinks her child is in danger. When my sister Yoli was in 3rd grade, you know where I'm going with this. She came home and told my mom that her teacher had pulled her braid because she wasn't paying attention. Now, this was the early 80s. That kind of behavior didn't necessarily warrant parental intervention. This is my mom we're talking about. So next day, she holds her hand, walks her into school, walks up to the teacher, and pulls her hair. Pulls her hair. If this behavior seems appropriate to you, you might be a Mexican mother. Mexican mothers are faithful. Growing up, our Catholic faith was a daily part of our lives. And after I went to college, my mom would still call and check in to make sure I was going to Mass. That made sense. But 20 years later, she still keeps this up. I can count on a call on Sunday mornings, about an hour before Mass begins, just checking in, see what you're doing today. Sometimes I'll confess, Mom, it's just really hectic around here. I don't think we're going to make it to Mass. Oh, it's okay, I understand. When I had all 6 of you kids to get around and out the door, it was a lot. I did it, but it was a lot. Cue to me motioning to my husband, get the kids dressed, get out the door. Once she called me on Ash Wednesday to make sure I was getting ashes. I said, Mom, I was going to. It was pouring outside. I don't want to get soaked. And she said, it's okay, Mija, I understand. He died on the cross for you, but yeah. You probably don't want to get your shoes wet. That makes sense. I did get my shoes wet that day. I recently read an article that said parts of a child stay inside their mother's body for up to 38 years after they give birth. It's kind of disgusting, right? Yeah. As the youngest of 6, I joked with my mom that she was only 1 year away from literally having no child left behind. But the reality is that parts of my mother are always inside me. At various points in my life, I might have been embarrassed by her generosity, her loyalty, her protectiveness, and her faithfulness. But now all I feel is gratitude and admiration. This woman who has made raising 6 children, 13 grandchildren, 6 great-grandchildren, her primary focus in life, has given all of us so much to live up to. And who knows, maybe someday I will confidently march into one of my children's classrooms and threaten bodily harm to their teacher. That is, after all, what Mexican mothers do.
Keep it strong, ladies. Yep, keep it strong. This verse is dedicated to all the women who work their butts off just for people to tell you what you can't do, what you shouldn't do, what you shouldn't wear, what you shouldn't say. She bought it. It's not what she said. Keep it strong, ladies. Now don't be tweaking on me, and don't be speaking on me, unless you say what you mean. Only mention me amongst queens. My sister, trust your instincts, not what your enemies think. By nature, you nurture a nation so nervous yourself. The naked truth is a part of your Eve. It ain't your heart to deceive, it's in your heart to give life, so his story can repeat, so his story can repeat, so his glory can be reached. You deserve an altar at your feet, you deserve to blossom. You a blessing from your breast down to your butt. Let your brothers know what's up, let your brothers know you love them. If they don't, they gon' give up. Let your sisters know what's good, treat her sisters like you should, and respect her, please protect her, cause we all misunderstood and broken. I lay my armor down, you can't harm me now. But if karma come around, tell her that I'm the culprit. I pay homage to the crowd, then I calm it down and rock a crown. Tell them that I'm golden, and that's what she said.
Everybody, please continue to give a round of applause for Amazon. And Adrian on the keys, thank you. And these beautiful ladies on the drums. Keep it coming, yeah. Can we get another big one for the host of this evening show, Kerry and Jill. Go white girl, go white girl, go white girl, go white girl. And now, for our 2015 She Said speakers, please, another round of applause. And the rest of the creative She Said team. Thank you for your hard work. We thank you for coming out this evening and for providing such good energy for us on stage. Give it up for That's What She Said.